I've been aware of you for a long time, and yeah, it's cool. It's cool to finally do to make this happen.
That's very cool. When did you hear about me? Curious to
Well,
know.
I mean, I didn't. I've known of your involvement in Lucid because we've got a
Right.
mutual friend, Alex.
Yeah. Alex
And
Gerard?
yeah, and then I saw Alex Gerard, yes, and then I saw your name pop up on the sketches, and I think we have spoken about you briefly before, but yeah, I'd seen your stuff online before a long time ago, so
That's awesome.
yeah, that's cool.
I
Jenny,
heard about you from Simon.
from Simon, yeah, and yeah,
Yes.
obviously Simon as well. Yeah, it's been a I haven't seen Simon in ages.
He told me that
Um,
he, yeah, saw you at your very young age, actually. That's cool.
yeah, it was a while ago actually. Yeah, it was a minute ago. Yeah, it was yeah, quite a long time ago.
Small world.
So a very small world. Yeah. So listen, Jenny, I want to kind of get back to fucking art. Sorry, it's been a very long day. I want to start right at the beginning. With you, and I just a bit about where you're from, and how you ended up in San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's yeah. So I grew up from Korea. So yeah, most of my life I lived in Seoul before I moved to California.
Yeah.
So a bit of like maybe 3 years growing up in Japan too. But yeah, most of up to I was 17 years old, I was in Korea. And my dad actually, his company sent him over to LA and he asked me like, hey, do you want to come along? It could be just a couple years. I could do my job and come back, or you can come along. And that was kind of like, it was not prepared. I wasn't thinking about moving to California, start, whole new life. But then somehow, yeah, I just really wanted to go with him. So I ended up coming to joining a high school in California, and yeah, starting to there's a Saturday High program. I don't know if you heard before at our center. And so I was going there just to do like figure drawings, and because I was always drawing and paintings, mostly oil paintings and acrylics, since I was pretty young age. And back in Korea, I was going to private like arts middle school and high school just because I wanted to spend a lot of time doing that. So when I came, it was natural that I needed to find some place to continue, and the art center was somehow it was actually close to where I ended up moving to. So that's when I really discovered, just walking back and forth for that class. I ended up walking into a senior room for transportation design, and I was blown away by that. Pretty much the presentation, and that was when I was junior in high school, and rest of my years I was just preparing for to go to our center transportation design.
So is that when you first discovered that car design was a thing, or did you know about
Exactly,
it before?
exactly. No, I mean, so like I mentioned, I was painting and drawing and always wanted to create my artwork. So one of the thing I was always doing was collecting a lot of reference images, like for all different kind of materials. But I somehow loved this classic car photography, and I always was collecting those images. But I never really knew about a job that you can do that for your for your living.
Yeah.
So that was and the process to get to it, like I think most of the people think about engineering first, or I don't know, maybe somehow I didn't know how much of drawing and sculpting was involved. And that's when I saw, when I saw the senior room, it was the whole deal, right? Like they have a presentation for branding, all this amazing sketches, amazing renderings, and then you see this sculpture, and there's a technical concept behind it, and it was just, the whole deal was really fascinating. So yeah, that's when I realized, actually, I want to do this. I want to do this as a job. So yeah.
Did you meet any of the students at that time?
Yeah, I don't think I was bold enough to kind of like talk to them directly at that moment. But when I went back home, I was just kind of like, I need to know what this is, So I was going into this website that has all these concept cars, and that's more fascinating, because I've only seen like classic cars or anything that's more current, right? Like normal, I think people don't really get to be exposed as much to the concept cars and all this new kind of, I don't know, like it was just really eye-opening. And I was starting to read all these interviews from designers, and when I thought that I should prepare to go to Art Center, I was kind of trying to see if anyone has any connection within my group or my relatives who's been living here, to see if anyone knew who goes to Art Center in transportation design. And luckily I found my aunt. She had a friend whose son goes to Art Center 7th term. So Minuk Yu, he's working at Nike, but at that time he finished internship at Toyota. He was on the way to a BMW internship in Munich. So I was really lucky that he took time to I pretty much got lesson from him. So, cause I was like, okay, I need to make sure that this portfolio is good enough that, I can get a scholarship or else I'm not going to go. I really knew that, I was so naive when I was young. I really asked my parents to pay for all this, middle school and high school, that was pretty costly to be more involved in, learned a lot from there, but I didn't want to do another one for Art Center. It's really expensive. So yeah, eventually he pretty much taught me the whole, how to make a portfolio. Like, you need like 4 different projects or 3 to 4 projects. And this is how you make the project. And this is how you draw a car. I was drawing like drawings, not sketching, So like I had to relearn the whole concept of like design sketch. And, but it was really fun. So yeah, I was lucky enough to, have those people. Like I met, Sei Choi. He's now working in, more in a toy company, but he was also graduated from Art Center. He also helped me with the portfolio. But I really wanted to get as much, kind of input as possible. And in 2009, I got into Art Center with half scholarship because of that. So
did you get in, was that first go you got in?
Yes. My senior year. I mean,
cool.
For 2 years, I was just kind of like focused on just making that work because, and all of my somehow, even like the art class or, anyone at school knew that because I was only sketching cars. Like I wasn't really doing much other things. I was like, hey, can you just, except doing this art piece, can I do sketch cars and do this project? Because I really, really need it for my college. And yeah, they were all very supportive. So yeah.
Jenny, can you just talk a little bit, like if it's possible for somebody kind of starting out, like what the difference is between drawing like a landscape, for example, or a portrait versus like the art of sketching ideas?
Yeah. To me, the biggest difference was the lines, kind of controlling the way to control the line. because in sketching, I guess you're kind of, especially for industrial design, you're sketching something that's going to be in 3D, like forms, right? And manufactured. And when I was in fine art, drawing was very, I was mainly drawing like figures, natural things, right? So I think that's where it comes the biggest difference, like flowers or form of a person or nature. Everything has a lot more fluidity, and kind of gesture is very natural in a way. And then in sketching, you want to be able to control that like stroke and line, so that it's like, okay, what exact radius? I mean, not in that detail in that beginning, but what curve are you drawing? You know, like, is it actually like negative and there's a lead in and then there's a radius, you know? And I think without the control of those, like precision of the line, you can't really describe any of that. So that was the biggest difference. So, you know, they made me like do all this like control lines. You have to put one line like 20 times in one space. Like, don't go to like different spaces. Because I was pretty like rough drawer before.
Are you, and tell me something, are you guys using any ellipses or anything like this at the start?
Not at the time. Yeah, not at the time. He, you know, when I was getting the first training, that he was kind of comparing my ellipse with the actual ellipse, tried to tell me that it's wrong. But I wasn't allowed to use the ellipse to draw the car. So the one thing was really cool was, you know, like from a really narrow ellipse to circle and then go back to ellipses, you know, those trainings, like just sketch 2 lines and then go from really narrow, like the line, and then like go all the way to circle. And that was just like pages and pages of drawing. Yeah.
And did you already have that completely down by the time you had started at Art Center?
Most of it, I would say, yeah. Because Art Center is so like their expectation of entrance portfolio is like, it's very professional level. I mean, even at the time, it was like I needed to have my buyer, I needed to have my whole branding, and then I had those line sketches, and then a lot of marker renderings. And 1 or 2 Photoshop at the time, but it wasn't really good. It was more of a fixing, like rendering at the time, making a nice composition with the scanned markers. So I was spending a lot of time on the marker renderings and things like that. But I mean, you know, but if when I started first term, like with Bumsok, I don't know if you heard his name, but he's like a pretty famous instructor. He was very cruel, like everything you're doing is wrong type of person. So I had to like go through those kind of a teary reviews afterwards. But still, it was very, very cool training.
Who were the people with you in your class at that time? Is there anybody else that we might know?
Yeah, actually, Zeb. Zeb's our interior design manager right now, and he was also the lead for Lucid Air. So I started with him actually, and didn't graduate together because, you know, the internship and everything kind of goes away. And of course, and Chris Lee, he's at BMW Interior in Munich, design lead. So with him, I actually graduated together too. So, but many of the Laura, she's in Chrysler. I think a lot of our class, my first term class, ended up working in a car company. That was like 12 students at the time. Yeah. So
there were a couple of girls already at college with you.
Yeah. So I started with 3. So including me, it was 3 of us. Lindsay, she's now working for Mattel, doing all this car
Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels, and it was really awesome because oh no, maybe I'm not allowed to say this.
Okay, that's
you
okay.
can guess, yeah.
Okay.
But it was
Okay,
very
cool.
cool. And Laura, she's working at Jeep Studio and doing a lot of alpha designs. So she's in Michigan. So all three of us ended up working in the industry for sure, which is really cool.
Jenny, I have to apologize. I know my image is completely blown out now. And
No worries.
I've been trying to correct it, but it's I don't know what's happening with it. It's just, yeah. But the picture, the recorded picture will be fine. But it's just, I know it can be a bit off-putting. So hopefully it will correct itself. But
I've seen your
sorry, yes.
No worries.
Apologies. Yeah. So Jenny, another thing that I was really interested about is your your path in becoming an exterior designer.
Mm-hmm.
Did you consider doing interiors as well, or was it always exteriors?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we at Art Center you go through different classes, so interior was. I really enjoyed it, learning from John Kratiski. It was really like an amazing kind of realization, because what brought me into the school was exterior, I would say. But when I really started to learn interior, I really enjoyed it. It's just more kind of a freedom of form outside of four wheels, right? And then I think at that time I sort of needed that, so I really was into it. And I even went to I did this competition like interior motive, and they picked one of my proposal from school to final, but I didn't win, of course. It was like my first project. It was it's embarrassing to see it, but they actually invited over finalists to Germany, Frankfurt Auto Show, and kind of meet those people who were judges. So that was when I actually met oh my god, I can't remember his name. That's not good. You need to.
That's okay.
But wait, Felix. Yes, Felix Goddard.
Felix Goddard.
Yeah,
yes.
because he came to Lucid in the end. He worked with us for a while, and that's when he like won the whole thing. And it was really I was blown away by his work too. So I was really into interior, but when I came back, like preparing internship portfolio, most of the feedback was like, oh, okay, Jenny, you have a pretty strong interior, but your exterior is not really strong as much. So you should, maybe consider interior internship. And I was open for that, definitely. But then I just kind of the way I took it was like, okay, I should strengthen my exterior, right? So I kind of focused on those projects, and then somehow my first internship ended up being exterior at Nissan Design Center. So when you go to internship, like your whole experience is just become so, like, you realize what the professional setting is. You really get to talk to the professional designer, and I think my whole passion for exterior grew like right away, starting from that first internship. So like it kind of like, it went like, I ended up following it through, after that was GM exterior internship, and there I went to DCC, Volkswagen Audi internship, so as an exterior. So I think I probably, looking back, I think I'm no regret. I'm like really enjoying the exterior, but I'm sure it could have been interior too. I'm sure I would have enjoyed it. It's pretty amazing to see our interior team working, and I'm always amazed. I try to get inspired. Like I would like sit, in front of their sketches and like, yeah, such an inspiration. So
do you have your tutors, for example, at Art Center, are they kind of encouraging you to pick a lane and say, go, you should double down on interiors or
sometimes,
or
yeah,
vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, every instructor's really was very different. To me, I think it's just the way I perceived that feedback. I really perceived it as like, okay, I should really work on my exterior, so that when the time comes to choose, I am choosing what I want to do, not just because I'm better at this. But then there's definitely a designer who are so much stronger in interior, and they just have this clicks, and they just fly super high when it comes to interior. So then instructors usually just be pretty straightforward. It's like, okay, I mean, obviously you're just way better at this, So
what is your personal stance on like choosing one or the other?
Personal, like reasoning?
No. Well, what is your personal opinion on being kind of picking one way or the other? Because this is a recurring theme, and I've spoken to a few like directors and young designers as well that have kind of been an advocate for designers doing both, like not just in the beginning, but like throughout their career. It's like you might do exteriors for 4 years and then after that go on to do interior design.
Definitely. No, I see so many talented designers who can do both, like definitely. I want to be careful what to say, but because I think to me, so when I'm talking to students, when they were kind of asking like don't know what to do, if you really love doing both, I would convince them to be strong at both and be and show that in a studio, and they will allow you to do that because you're good at both, and they're like, yay, like one designer can do two things. It's great. And usually when the exterior designers, I think, I like the proportion of side, and I like the character side. So that's a little bit different from experience side, maybe, and someone who wants to create this new experience, who wants to like design something that's really like directly impacting the usability of the car. I think they are really prone to become a great interior designer, I think. To me, I'm like, I love kind of seeing car as a almost like a character, like a person or personal, or even like some kind of it's all about, I think, to me, is he like nice, or she's soft or strong, like, or aggressive, or it's really like a personality, character, and sort of working with, I mean, that's one side, and then working with sort of the architecture and the technology to kind of blend them together. So if that's really driving you to do this, then it's more exterior. I think that's how I would put it. Yeah.
I think, I mean, it also varies from studio to studio, right? And I think it's
definitely.
Also like some studios are kind of set up for, people generally will pick one thing and they will do that, pretty much the whole time that they're there. But then there are, like, I know, for example, Ferrari is one of those studios where designers are kind of expected to do both. And I think I can't quote anyone here, so hopefully nobody gets in trouble. But I've been told that it might be that even if you think you are only doing exteriors, you might get thrown in the deep end and say, actually, you need to try interior, and you kind of get pushed out of your comfort zone. And I think there's a lot to be, there's a hell of a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a good and bad, right? Like, I mean, like to continue your, I know that Tesla also designers, they do interior, exterior, both. I think there's really sort of if you're if you're really like, because once you do a lot of exterior project, you build your strength. There's strength in certain things, and when you do interior, there's certain things that in values, certain things that you get to solve, like problem solving wise. And then, you're kind of switching that strength into a different problem or a different solution. And I'm sure there's really cool things come off it. I see sometimes the project that like, oh yeah, I heard that exterior designer worked on this interior. And then you can tell, then it's not a good thing, right? So it's almost kind of, I guess it really depends. But I did hear actually when I was interning at GM in Michigan that especially for design managers to be able to kind of do different things, like you're managing interior team now suddenly. And I think it's mainly because they want you to be trained in all things so that eventually you are more responsible for a bigger picture. So I guess, because we're essentially making a one car.
Yes. Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point because, it's such a cheesy thing to say, but it is it is teamwork,
exactly,
right? And
yes.
Somebody I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been JC Pavoni, but they were talking about, if you are only doing exteriors, for example, and you are like all about the belt line and the perfect body side and dropping the roof height, and you don't care about the passengers' heads and whatnot. The minute you get forced to do an interior, for example, it gives you a point of empathy, where you will think twice before just going like, well, I'm raising a belt line and I don't care what the implications are. I'm just going to do it, and I think that's, it's
definitely.
just, yeah.
No, I love JC. He was my boss, through Audi days, and
oh, cool.
yeah, so I was listening to your podcast on him, and it's really cool because he was when I started internship, he was my manager, and then he became chief, like leading the whole exterior team while I was a junior designer, and I think he has this big picture kind of product kind of thinking that I've learned a lot about that. For sure for Lucid, like is the whole, I mean, exterior is cool, but it's the interior is like the interior space was always our selling point. It was like, okay, this is a surprisingly large vehicle for its size, and it's and that's where we had to really focus on. So when we were even styling the whole cabin and everything, really had to be logically made sense for that experience. So yeah, I think it was really that topic. And right now, the class that I'm teaching at Art Center, we are exterior design class, but in the end, eventually, like last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we leave it to build interior layouts and composition. And even if you have more time left, then you build the seats, you build like the experience around it, and it's somehow the whole story becomes a whole, because when you are just doing exterior, it's somehow there's a half of the story, and then there's no like content somehow, like, and this whole concept becomes comprehensive and becomes a whole as soon as you put the interior in. So I consider that a very, very important topic.
On the subject of teaching interiors at Art Center, I know you didn't necessarily do it yourself, but are they doing stuff like seating bucks and sitting in a seat and like working out a package for a vehicle?
At my days, I don't think I've seen a seating buff before. I know we were making a scale model of like the layouts and to study with foam cores and quick mock-ups before you print the whole thing or render the whole thing. But I've seen like some motorbikes, full size like seating buck type thing, but I don't think I've seen the interior seating buck yet. But maybe because it's been a while I left the school, and I'm teaching from online too these days, so I didn't get to go into the class or the campus for a long time. I think everyone in like 2 years, sure, not being able to go in. Yeah.
Jenny, I what is your personal process of normally working? Are you like primarily 2D based, or do you use 3D as well yourself?
Yeah, I mean, like I do Alias. You learned Alias at school, and when I was graduating, even though I was working at DCC at the time, I still wanted to have some like cool model to graduate together with my friends. So like I was working until 7:00, and from 7:00 just focus on my own thesis projects, and I was building my own models. And to just mill it and spray it, send it. So, even in the real program, like, I wouldn't like build the whole thing and give it to modeler. I like kind of sketch modeling together with the design sketch modeler, like digital modeler who are liking those part of the process. But I do put in a lot of, sometimes if I need time to just sit down and like figure it out, like put a curve on my own, then I try to figure the corner out, then come back to it, and maybe it's not A-class surface, but they know what I'm talking about. And it's really like nice kind of a feedback, back and forth. So I try to do that, pretty often actually. Yeah. It's just quicker way. I mean, of course, I can put like orthographic and do the tape line type of red line curves, and that's sometimes quicker if I need to do it quick. But so it's sort of the mixture. And I noticed the Blender is become such a big role these days. Just looking at all the portfolios that's coming in, and also the school programs too, like so I started building the donuts and everything, so I'm like trying to kind of get easy into it, because I know I can see the benefits that's coming, but at actual work, it's mainly Alias.
There's so many people are using Blender now, right? It's become such a I mean, I think especially with the younger guys, but I mean, a lot of my old colleagues as well are all like learning as well, because they apparently like, I mean, I don't know, because I still haven't, I'm pretty lazy and I haven't applied myself, but the tool itself, not just from a modeling standpoint, but also, in terms of animation and having, you could have like essentially like 3 different exteriors, and you can morph between those 3 different volumes, and almost like a slider. So, if somebody, instead of rebuilding the whole body side to get like a bit more tension in the bone line, for example, you can just, I mean, I don't know if it's a slider or whatever it is, but there are like stages in between those 3 different volumes that you can just morph, which I was pretty impressed by.
No, it's amazing, because
I don't know if you've seen,
so I just learned not too long ago that at our center already second term you start to learn Blender, and so I'm doing an exterior class for 5th term, and they're like they're really good. So after 8 terms, 8 weeks of designing, developing, and they're already bringing in Blender models, like sketch models, and we can already kind of like make a variation, make two different directions, or even lots of different variants of the details. So, and the final result is always very, very high quality because, I mean, those who are used to it now. But what's kind of new is a lot of time from student day to professional days, like in between process, the biggest kind of jump is like learning how to put your 2D idea to 3D, right? And some people are really good at that, and some students just kind of like really struggle for a long time, and that's the biggest kind of I guess you can tell if she or he's gonna make it and really excel it, and that's when you kind of see that through internship and everything. But now a lot of the students already like learn, like, you know, because they do doodle sketches and then they build it into the model and realize, oh, okay, this doesn't work. You know, this surface what I was rendering or sketching doesn't really work, and they learn that a lot quicker, I guess. And of course, there's a limiting. It can become a limiting factor that they don't like, you know, maybe try less. I don't know, but it's amazing that a lot of students have a lot more 3D understanding quickly in the process of making a portfolio. So I think that's really, really awesome, and it's just the future, I think.
Do you think that like the sketching is suffering as a result of that?
A little bit, yeah. You can tell. But I mean, what was the point of sketching from the beginning anyway, right? Like we were sketching in order to make an awesome 3D models.
Yes,
so
right.
It's like of course, what drawn me in was like a lot of this beautiful renderings, and you know, I still miss that sometimes, but it's essentially like, what was the point of it? It was to make an amazing models and 3D and actual product. So I guess as long as it doesn't limit us from trying things, maybe it's a natural process.
Yes,
as the technology moves forward.
Yeah, right. Because the thing is that, I mean, there's obviously less lost. There's nothing then lost in translation because you've got a volume, right? And if the volume's great, then you know it's that's what counts at the end of the day, because the end goal is a volume, not a 2D sketch.
Exactly. Yeah.